Thursday night, Mark came through the door at 6:47 p.m. With that expression, the one where he's trying too hard to look casual, but can't quite hide the excitement underneath. We'd been married 8 years. I knew all his faces. "Close your eyes," he said. I was at the kitchen sink, hands covered in dish soap. "I'm doing dishes. It can wait. Close your eyes." I dried my hands on the towel, turned around, and closed them. Heard his footsteps cross the tile, felt him stop in front of me. Something crinkled paper. Opened them. In his hands was a cream-colored envelope, the expensive kind, with a wax seal. Inside, a keycard in a small sleeve, and a glossy brochure showing a cabin surrounded by pine trees, mountains rising in the background. "White Pine Cabins," I read aloud. "Luxury mountain retreat. This weekend," Mark said, and his voice had that boyish quality it got when he was genuinely pleased with himself. "I booked us the Whispering Pines unit. 2 nights. Full kitchen, private hot tub, hiking trails." I thought we could use it. My throat tightened. We could use it. That was the understatement of the year. The last 6 months had been rough. Not catastrophically bad, no screaming fights, no thrown dishes, just a slow erosion. He worked late more often. I started going to bed before he got home. We talked about bills and groceries and whose turn it was to take out the trash, but we hadn't had a real conversation since summer, the kind where you actually look at each other. "Mark," I set the brochure down carefully. This is really thoughtful." "Yeah?" He was smiling now, full brightness. "I know things have been weird. I know I've been distant. I want to fix that. I want us to fix that." I hugged him. He smelled like his cologne and the coffee he'd probably had at 3 p.m. to get through the afternoon slump. His arms came around me, tight. "Thank you," I said into his shoulder. "Really, this is perfect." And I meant it. In that moment, standing in our kitchen with his arms around me and a luxury cabin weekend waiting 48 hours away, I thought maybe we'd be okay. Maybe this was the reset button we needed. I should have known better. Friday night, I was packing. Mark was in the living room going through his work bag and muttering about whether we needed to bring his laptop, just in case something urgent comes up, he'd said, which defeated the entire purpose of a romantic getaway. But I didn't argue. Pick your battles. I'd laid out clothes on the bed, jeans, sweaters, the nice underwear I hadn't worn in months, hiking boots. The weather report said cold but clear. Perfect. Mark's work jacket was draped over the back of the bedroom chair, the charcoal one he wore most days, with the company logo stitched on the breast. I grabbed it to hang in the closet. Something crinkled in the pocket. I don't know why. I checked. Habit maybe, or instinct. The same reason you glance at your partner's phone when it lights up on the counter, even though you're not the jealous type, even though you trust them. I reached into the breast pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. At first, I thought it was a receipt. Mark was terrible about emptying his pockets. I'd washed 3 receipts and a USB drive in the last month alone. But when I unfolded it, I saw the header. White Pine Cabins. Reservation. Confirmation. My stomach dropped before my brain caught up. I read it once, twice, 3 times. Property. Whispering Pines Unit 3. Check-in. December 14th, 4 p.m. Checkout. December 16th, 11 a.m. Lead guest, Mark Harding. Additional guest, Jessica Hayes. December 14th, 5 weeks from now. Jessica Hayes. I stood there holding the paper, my hands starting to shake. In the living room, Mark was still talking to himself about the laptop. "You know what? Screw it. This is supposed to be a vacation." I looked at the brochure on the bed, the one for this weekend, November 9th through November 11th. Our reservation, Mark and Sarah Harding. 2 bookings. Same cabin, different dates, different woman. My vision tunneled. The edges of the room went fuzzy and dark, everything narrowing down to those printed words. Additional guest, Jessica Hayes. "Sarah?" Mark's voice came from the living room. "Did you pack my good boots?" I couldn't answer. My throat had closed up. "Sarah?" Footsteps in the hallway. I shoved the paper into my jeans pocket and turned around just as Mark appeared in the doorway. "Hey, did you—" He stopped. "You okay? You look pale." "Fine." The word came out strangled. I cleared my throat. "Yeah, fine. Your boots are in the closet." He studied me for a second, then nodded and crossed to the closet, talking about waterproofing spray and whether it was worth the effort. I sat down on the edge of the bed, the paper burning a hole through my pocket. I waited until he went to shower. The second I heard the water running, I pulled out the reservation confirmation and spread it on the bed next to the brochure for our trip, side by side. Identical cabins, different dates. My laptop was on the nightstand. I opened it, hands shaking so badly I mistyped my password twice. Jessica Hayes. I typed it into the search bar, then stopped. What was I looking for? His coworker? His client? An ex? The shower shut off. I minimized the browser and shoved the paper back in my pocket. Mark came out wrapped in a towel, his hair dripping. "You sure you're okay?" "You've been quiet." "Just tired. Long week." He kissed the top of my head as he passed. "Well, tomorrow you can sleep in. No alarms, no schedule. Just us. Just us." The words felt like a punch. I waited until he was asleep. It didn't take long. Mark always crashed hard on Friday nights, the accumulated stress of the week finally catching up. By 10:30, he was out cold, snoring softly into his pillow. I slipped out of bed and took my laptop to the kitchen. Jessica Hayes. I started with social media. 3 profiles came up. One was clearly a teenager. One was a woman in her 60s who posted pictures of her garden. The third, I clicked on the profile. Jessica Hayes, 34 years old, worked in marketing, lived about 40 minutes away. Her profile picture showed a woman with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, smiling at the camera. Pretty, not stunning, not plain, just normal. The kind of woman you wouldn't look twice at in a grocery store. Her profile was mostly private, but I could see a few public posts. Pictures from a 5 Kelvins run last month, a screenshot of a book recommendation, a photo of a sunset with the caption, "Needed this today." Nothing about Mark. No tagged photos together. No mutual friends, at least none that I could see. I searched for her name, plus Mark's company. Nothing. I searched for her name, plus marketing, plus the city. Found her LinkedIn. Jessica Hayes, senior marketing consultant, independent contractor. I clicked through her work history. She'd freelanced for a dozen companies over the last 5 years. None of them were Mark's employer, so not a coworker. I sat back, staring at the screen. The kitchen was dark except for the laptop's glow. Outside, a car drove past, headlights sweeping across the wall. Who the hell was Jessica Hayes? And why was my husband taking her to the cabin he'd booked for us? I didn't sleep. By the time Mark's alarm went off at 7 a.m., I'd been awake for 9 hours straight, my mind running through scenarios like a hamster on a wheel. Maybe it's a surprise for someone else. Maybe he booked it for his brother and his brother's girlfriend. Maybe Jessica is his brother's girlfriend. Except Mark's brother was married to a woman named Amanda. Maybe it's a group trip. Maybe there are other people going and Jessica is just the one he listed. Except the reservation said 2 guests, lead guest and additional guest. That's it. Maybe it's for work. Maybe she's a client and this is some kind of corporate retreat. Except Mark worked in logistics. Corporate retreats didn't happen in romantic mountain cabins with private hot tubs. I went through a pot of coffee by myself. When Mark came into the kitchen, already dressed for the drive, he found me sitting at the table staring at nothing. "Morning," he kissed my forehead. "You're up early. Couldn't sleep?" Something like that. He poured himself coffee, added too much cream the way he always did. "You excited? I checked the weather, supposed to be perfect. Cold, but no rain." "Yeah." I wrapped my hands around my mug. "Hey, can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Do you know anyone named Jessica?" His hand paused halfway to his mouth. "Just curious. Someone mentioned that name yesterday, and I couldn't remember if it was someone we knew. Jessica's a pretty common name." He opened the fridge, pulled out the orange juice. "I probably know 3 or 4 Jessicas." "Why?" "No reason. Just trying to remember." He looked at me then, really looked, and I saw something flicker across his face. Concern? Suspicion? I couldn't tell. "You feeling okay?" he asked. "You seem off." "I'm fine. Just didn't sleep great." "Well, you can nap in the car. I'll drive." I nodded and took another sip of coffee. We left at 8:30, 2 hours to the cabin. Mark drove, one hand on the wheel, the other reaching over occasionally to squeeze my knee. He was in a good mood, talking about the trails we could hike, the restaurants nearby, how he'd heard the hot tub was incredible. I stared out the window and made appropriate noises at appropriate times. The reservation confirmation was in my purse now. I transferred it from my jeans pocket this morning while he was loading the car. Every few minutes, I'd feel the weight of it, like it was physically heavier than a piece of paper had any right to be. "You're quiet," Mark said about an hour into the drive. "Just thinking." About who Jessica Hayes is. About why you're taking her to our cabin next month. About whether I'm losing my mind or whether my marriage is falling apart. Nothing important. Just work stuff. He nodded, satisfied, and turned up the radio. We stopped for gas at a small station off the highway. Mark went inside to pay and grab snacks. I stayed in the car, pulled out my phone, and opened the browser. White Pine Cabins. I navigated to their website and found the Whispering Pines unit. The photos were gorgeous. Vaulted ceilings with exposed beams. A king-size bed with white linens. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the mountains. A stone fireplace. The hot tub on the private deck. Starting at $450 per night. I clicked on the booking page. Selected December 14th through 16th. Because my husband had already booked it for himself and Jessica Hayes. Mark came back with a bag of chips and 2 bottles of water. They had those weird pickle chips you like. Thanks. He handed me the bag, and we pulled back onto the highway. We arrived at 11 a.m. White Pine Cabins was exactly what the brochure promised. A cluster of luxury units scattered across a mountainside, each one positioned for maximum privacy. Ours was at the end of a winding gravel road, tucked between pine trees with a view of the valley below. Mark parked and grabbed our bags. Holy shit! This is even better than the pictures! It was. I hated that it was. Inside, everything was perfect. The fireplace was already set with logs, ready to light. The kitchen was stocked with welcome amenities, coffee, tea, a bottle of wine with a note from the management. The bedroom had that king-size bed and the windows and the view that probably cost half the rental fee by itself. This is incredible. Mark dropped the bags and pulled me into a hug. I'm so glad we're doing this. I hugged him back and tried not to think about him standing in this exact spot next month with Jessica Hayes in his arms instead of me. We unpacked, made sandwiches for lunch. Mark suggested a hike and I said I needed to rest first, so he went out to explore the trails while I stayed behind. The second he was gone, I pulled out the reservation confirmation again. I called the number listed at the bottom. White Pine Cabins, this is Rachel speaking. How can I help you? Hi. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. I have a question about a reservation. Of course. Do you have your confirmation number? I read it off the paper, the December one, Jessica's reservation. Okay, I see it here. Whispering Pines Unit 3, checking in December 14th. How can I help you? I need to confirm the guest names. Sure. Lead guest is Mark Harding. Additional guest is Jessica Hayes. And is there any way to see who made the booking? A pause. The reservation was made online using the account registered to Mark Harding. Is there a problem? No problem. Thank you. I hung up before she could ask anything else, so it was definitely Mark who booked it. Using his own account, his own credit card probably. He hadn't even tried to hide it, just tucked the confirmation in his jacket pocket like it didn't matter if I found it. Or maybe he didn't think I would. I sat on the edge of that perfect bed in that perfect cabin and felt something crack open inside my chest. Mark came back an hour later, his face flushed from the cold, looking more relaxed than I'd seen him in months. The trails are amazing. There's this overlook about 20 minutes up that, Sarah, are you crying? I hadn't realized I was. I wiped my eyes quickly. I'm fine. You're not fine. What's wrong? He crossed the room, sat down next to me on the bed. Hey, talk to me. I reached into my purse and pulled out the paper. Who is Jessica Hayes? The color drained from his face. Where did you get that? Your jacket pocket. Last night. He stood up, ran his hands through his hair, paced to the window and back. Sarah, who is she? She's no one. It's not what you think. Then tell me what it is. He sat down again, but farther away this time. His hands were shaking. She's a client, a really difficult client. I had to book the cabin for a meeting because she refuses to meet in the office. She likes these off-site bullshit. He stopped, looked at me. What? You're lying. I can see it on your face. You're a terrible liar, Mark. You always have been. I'm not. The same cabin? My voice was rising now. You booked the exact same cabin you're taking me to for a meeting with a client? For a full weekend? Does she like the hot tub? Is that part of the meeting? Sarah, please. How long has this been going on? Nothing is going on. Then why are you taking her here? I stood up. The paper crumpled in my fist. Why this place? Why the same cabin? Why didn't you tell me about it? He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. It's complicated. Uncomplicated. He looked at me for a long moment, and then something shifted in his expression. The panic faded, replaced by something harder. Resignation, maybe. Or exhaustion. Fine. He stood up. You want the truth? Fine. She's my ex-fiancée. The room tilted. You're what? My ex-fiancée. From before I met you. We broke up 7 years ago. I sat back down. You never told me you were engaged before. It didn't seem relevant. I laughed, sharp and bitter. You were engaged and you never thought to mention it? It was over. It didn't matter. Apparently it does matter, because you're taking her to a romantic cabin next month. It's not like that. He was pacing again. We still have a business together. We co-own a property. We're winding down the assets. And she wanted to use this reservation because it's already paid for from before. From before what? From before we broke up. We planned this trip together, booked it a year in advance, non-refundable. When we split, neither of us canceled it. It's been sitting there for years. I stared at him. So, you're using our romantic weekend to preview the trip you're taking with your ex-fiancé? No. God, Sarah, it's not. Then what is it? I wanted to make sure it was nice before she went. She's been going through a hard time and I wanted to... You wanted to what? Make sure your ex was comfortable? Make sure the cabin was up to her standards? She's not just my ex. She's my business partner. We have to maintain a professional relationship. Business partners don't take romantic weekend trips together. It's not romantic. It's the same cabin, Mark. The same one you brought me to. How is that not? I stopped, took a breath. When were you going to tell me? I wasn't. The words hung in the air between us. You weren't going to tell me. What was I supposed to say? Hey, honey, I'm spending the weekend with my ex-fiancé in a luxury cabin. You would have freaked out. You're damn right I would have freaked out. Exactly. So I didn't tell you. It's business, Sarah. That's all it is. I looked at him standing there, defensive and angry and caught, and I realized something. I didn't believe him. Maybe the ex-fiancé part was true. Maybe the business partnership was real. But the rest of it, the story about winding down assets and using old reservations, it felt rehearsed, like he'd been preparing this explanation for a while, just in case. Get out, I said quietly. What? Get out of this cabin. Leave. Sarah, come on. I'm not spending the weekend here with you. I'm not sitting in this cabin knowing you're bringing her back next month. I'm not doing it. Where am I supposed to go? I don't care. Go home. Go to a hotel. Go to Jessica's place for all I care. Just get out. He stood there for a long moment, looking at me like he was waiting for me to change my mind. I didn't. Fine. He grabbed his bag, shoved his clothes back into it. Fine. But you're being crazy. You know that, right? You're throwing away our marriage because of a business trip. No, I said. You did that when you booked this cabin with her. He slammed the door on his way out. I sat in that perfect cabin for 3 hours after he left, staring at nothing. The sun set. The room grew dark. I didn't turn on the lights. My phone buzzed with texts from Mark. I'm sorry. Can we talk about this? You're overreacting. Please call me. I turned off my phone. At 9 p.m., I finally got up, turned on the lights, and started looking through the cabin. I don't know what I expected to find. Evidence? Proof? A hidden note from Jessica saying, can't wait for December? But I searched anyway. Opened drawers, checked under the bed, looked through the guest book on the coffee table. That's where I found it. The guest book was leather-bound, expensive looking, the kind of thing you'd flip through and read other people's reviews. Amazing weekend. Perfect for anniversary. Gorgeous views. We'll definitely be back. Thank you for the wonderful hospitality. I turned to the most recent entries. October, September, August. And then I saw it. July 3rd. What a perfect weekend. Everything we hoped it would be. Thank you for making our celebration so special. M and J. M and J. My hands started shaking again. I flipped back further. June, May, April, March 15th. Second time here. And just as magical as the first. Can't wait to come back. M and J. January 8th. Best New Year's getaway we could have asked for. M and J. I kept flipping. December, November, October of last year. September 24th of last year. First time at White Pine and already planning our next visit. Perfect place for new beginnings. M and J. They'd been coming here for over a year. Not once, not twice, multiple times. While I was at home thinking my husband was working late or traveling for business or whatever excuse he'd used, I took pictures of every entry with my phone. Evidence, in case I needed it later. For what? I wasn't sure, but it felt important to document. Then I called the front desk. Same woman, Rachel. Hi, I said. This is Sarah Harding. I'm staying in Whispering Pines Unit 3. Oh yes. How is everything? Perfect. Listen, I have a weird question. Do you have records of previous stays in this cabin? I can access the booking history, sure. Is there something specific you need? I'm looking at the guest book, and I see several entries from M and J. I'm trying to figure out if those might be friends of ours who recommended this place. Oh, let me check. Typing sounds. Okay, so we have several bookings under Mark Harding going back about 15 months. The additional guest is listed as Jessica Hayes each time. How many bookings? Let's see. 7 total, roughly every 6 to 8 weeks. 7 times. They'd been here 7 times. Thank you, I managed. That's helpful. I hung up and sat there with my phone in my lap. This wasn't a business meeting. This wasn't about winding down assets or using old reservations. This was an affair. A long-term, carefully planned, regularly scheduled affair. And this weekend, our romantic getaway, our chance to reconnect, this was what? His apology? His way of easing his guilt before going back to her next month? I picked up a decorative pillow and threw it across the room. It hit the wall and fell to the floor with an unsatisfying soft thud. Then I started laughing. Not happy laughter. The kind that comes when things are so absurd your brain short-circuits. He'd brought me here, to their place, the cabin where he'd been conducting his affair for over a year. And he thought I wouldn't notice, thought I wouldn't care, thought he could just, what, redecorate the memory by making new ones with me first? My phone buzzed again. Mark, are you going to talk to me? Or are you just going to sit there being angry? I almost threw my phone too. Instead, I turned it off again and poured myself a glass of wine from the welcome basket. The cabin was quiet, peaceful, exactly the kind of place you'd want to visit with someone you loved. I wondered if Jessica was sitting at home right now, counting down the days until December 14th, if she knew about me, if she cared. I drank the wine and stared out the window at the darkness and tried to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do next. I woke up on the couch at 6 a.m. with a stiff neck and the worst emotional hangover of my life. My phone had 17 missed calls and 23 text messages, all from Mark. I turned on the coffee maker and read through them while I waited for it to brew. The first few were apologetic. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have left. Can we please talk?" Then defensive. "You're blowing this way out of proportion. It's not what you think." Then angry. "I can't believe you're doing this. You're destroying our marriage over nothing." Then desperate. "Please call me. I love you. We can work this out." The last one, sent at 2:37 a.m. "Fine. If you're not going to talk to me, I'm just going to say it. Yes, I've been seeing Jessica, but it's not an affair. It's complicated. Call me when you're ready to listen like an adult." I read that one 3 times. It's not an affair. It's complicated. I poured coffee into a mug and sat down at the kitchen table with my laptop. Time to find out exactly how complicated. Jessica Hayes. I went deeper this time, beyond the surface social media and LinkedIn profile. I searched for her name, plus Mark's name, plus the name of their supposed business, plus property records, plus anything else I could think of, and I found it. Buried in a local business registry. Hayes Marketing Solutions, LLC, filed 6 years ago. Partners, Mark Harding and Jessica Hayes. So that part was real. They did have a business together. I dug deeper, found annual reports, tax filings. The business was legitimate, but small freelance marketing, consulting, maybe $20,000 in revenue last year. Barely enough to justify keeping it running. I searched property records next. Found a small commercial space registered to Hayes Marketing Solutions. An office, maybe, rented, not owned. No residential properties co-owned. No assets worth winding down. So what was the business really for? A cover story? A legal excuse to see each other? Tax purposes? My phone rang. "Mark?" I answered this time. "Finally," he said. "Jesus, Sarah. You can't just ignore me for 12 hours. I can do whatever I want. Can we please talk about this like adults?" "Go ahead, talk." A pause. Then, "I know you're upset. I get it. But you have to understand. 7 times. "What? You've been to this cabin with her 7 times in the last 15 months, roughly every 6 to 8 weeks. I called the front desk. They have records." Silence. "So, when you said it was business," I continued, my voice flat, "were you lying then, or are you lying now when you say it's complicated?" "Sarah, and when you said you wanted to make sure it was nice before she went next month, were you forgetting about the other 7 times you've already been here with her?" "It's not." "Not what? Not an affair?" "Because it sure as hell looks like an affair, sounds like an affair, has all the characteristics of an affair. We're not sleeping together." I laughed. "Oh, well, that makes it so much better. I'm serious. We're not." "Then what are you doing, Mark? What exactly happens during these romantic weekend getaways that isn't sex but also isn't business?" He was quiet for so long I thought he'd hung up. Then, "We talk. You talk." "Yeah, we talk. About everything. About things I can't talk to you about." Something in my chest cracked wider. "What things?" "I don't know. Life, work, the future. She gets me in ways you don't." Jesus Christ. I don't mean it like that. How else could you possibly mean it? She understands the pressure I'm under, the stress. She knows what it's like to run a business, to have people depending on you, to feel like you're drowning and nobody notices. You don't get that. I'm your wife. I'm supposed to get that. You're supposed to, yeah. But you don't. Every time I try to talk to you about work, you zone out. You don't care about the details. You don't ask questions. You just want me to be home on time and not stressed out. So, your solution is to have an emotional affair with your ex-fiancé? It's not an affair. Then, what is it? He trailed off. "I don't know. It's complicated." "You keep saying that. Explain it to me. Make me understand why you need to spend weekends in romantic cabins with another woman." "Because she makes me feel seen." His voice cracked. "Okay. Is that what you want to hear?" "She makes me feel like I matter. Like I'm not just the guy who brings home a paycheck and takes out the trash. She listens when I talk. She asks questions. She remembers things I told her 3 months ago. She gives a shit about my life." I sat there with the phone pressed to my ear, my coffee going cold in front of me. "And I don't?" I finally said. "Not like she does." The words landed like a physical blow. "Then why are you still married to me?" Another long silence. Then, "Because I love you." Bullshit. "I do. I love you. This thing with Jessica, it's different. It's separate. It doesn't have anything to do with how I feel about you. You're spending romantic weekends with her in a cabin, Mark. You're telling me you can't talk to me. You're saying she understands you better than I do. How is that separate?" "Because what I have with her isn't real. It's like an an escape, a place where I can be a different version of myself. But you're my wife. You're my real life. She's just what? Your backup? Your side piece? Your emotional support? Ex-fiancé? You're twisting everything. I'm not twisting anything. I'm just repeating what you're saying. He exhaled hard. Look, can we table this? Come home. We'll talk in person. I can explain everything better face to face. I'm not coming home. What? I'm staying here through tomorrow. I paid for this cabin, or you paid for it. Technically, and I'm going to use it. Sarah, that's insane. Just come home. No, you're being childish. And you're being unfaithful, so I guess we're both disappointing each other. I hung up. I spent Saturday doing all the things Mark and I were supposed to do together. I hiked the trails, found the overlook he'd mentioned, stood there looking at the valley and the mountains and the endless expanse of trees, and felt absolutely nothing. I came back to the cabin and sat in the hot tub alone, drinking wine from a plastic cup and watching the sun set. I made dinner in the perfect kitchen with the welcome amenities and the high-end appliances, ate by myself at the dining table, looking out at the darkness. And I thought about the last 8 years, about how we'd met at a conference, hit it off over bad hotel coffee, exchanged numbers, how he'd called me the next day, how we dated for 2 years before he proposed, how the wedding had been small but perfect, how we bought the house and adopted the cat and built this life, about how somewhere along the way we'd stopped talking, really talking, about how I'd started seeing him as the guy who forgot to empty the dishwasher instead of the man I'd married, about how he'd started seeing me as an obligation instead of a partner, about how easy it would have been to fix that if we'd just tried. But we hadn't tried. I hadn't tried. I'd just assumed things would work themselves out, that marriage was supposed to get comfortable and quiet, that this was normal, and Mark hadn't tried either. He just found someone else to talk to. By Sunday morning, I knew what I had to do. I checked out at 11 a.m. and drove home in silence. No radio, no podcasts, just 2 hours alone with my thoughts and the hum of the highway. Mark's car was in the driveway when I arrived. I'd half expected him to not be there, to have stayed with a friend or gone to a hotel. But no, he was home. I found him in the kitchen, making coffee. He looked like he hadn't slept. His hair was a mess. He was still wearing yesterday's clothes. "Hey," he said when he saw me. "Hey, how was the rest of the weekend?" "Quiet." He nodded, poured coffee into 2 mugs, handed me one. We stood there in our kitchen, not looking at each other. "I need to know something," I finally said. "And I need you to be honest, really honest." "Okay, do you want to be married to me?" He looked up then. "What? Do you want to be married to me? Not are you married to me? Not do you love me? Do you want to be married to me?" He opened his mouth, closed it. "That's not a fair question. It's the only question that matters, Sarah. Because if you don't want to be married to me, that's okay. We can figure out how to end this cleanly. We can divide assets and file paperwork and move on with our lives. But if you do want to be married to me, then we need to fix this. Actually fix it. Not just go on romantic weekend getaways and pretend everything's fine. I do want to be married to you." Then Jessica ends. Today, right now. The business partnership, the cabin reservation, all of it. You cancel December 14th. You dissolve the LLC. You cut her out of your life completely. That's not non-negotiable, Mark. If you want to stay married to me, Jessica is gone. He set down his coffee mug. She's been in my life for 10 years. I can't just cut her out. Then you've made your choice. Sarah, come on. That's not fair. You can't make me choose between... Yes, I can. Because that's what marriage is. Choosing your partner over everyone else. Every day, every time. And if you can't do that, then we shouldn't be married. He looked at me for a long time. I watched emotions cycle across his face. Anger, frustration, fear, something that might have been grief. "Fine," he finally said. "I'll cancel the reservation. And the business? We'll figure out how to dissolve it. And her? No more weekend trips. No more late-night conversations. No more emotional support, ex-fiancé. No more Jessica." His voice was flat, dead. "Say it like you mean it." He looked me in the eye. "No more Jessica. I'm done. I choose you." I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him so badly. But I'd seen the guest book entries. I'd heard the way his voice changed when he talked about her. I knew, deep in my gut, that this wasn't over. It would never be over. Not really. Because Mark had already made his choice. He'd been making it every 6 to 8 weeks for 15 months. And one conversation in a kitchen wasn't going to change that. But I nodded anyway. "Okay, we'll try." "Yeah," he said. "We'll try." Neither of us believed it. Mark canceled the December reservation. I watched him do it, sitting right there at the kitchen table, phone on speaker so I could hear the confirmation. "Yes, I need to cancel booking number 847-392, December 14th through 16th. Yes, I'm sure. No, we won't be rebooking. Thank you." He hung up and looked at me. "Done. Thank you." He nodded and went back to his laptop. Work email. Always work email. We'd been trying. That's what we told ourselves. We went out to dinner twice a week, had conversations about something other than bills and groceries, went to bed at the same time instead of me falling asleep alone. But there was a distance now that hadn't been there before, an awareness. Every time his phone buzzed, I wondered if it was her. Every time he said he had to work late, I didn't fully believe him. And he knew I didn't believe him. I could see it in the way he over-explained everything. I'm going to the gym became I'm going to the gym on 5th Street, the one by the grocery store. I'll be back in an hour and a half, 90 minutes max. It was exhausting for both of us. The LLC dissolution was messier, required lawyers and paperwork and decisions about how to divide the few assets they had. Mark handled most of it, showing me the documents as they came through. See, I'm doing it. I'm ending it. But I noticed he never talked about Jessica herself, never mentioned if they'd spoken, if he'd told her why he was dissolving the business, if she was upset or angry or hurt. He'd just gone silent on the subject. Like if he didn't mention her, I'd forget she existed. I didn't forget. The date came and went. I'd been dreading it. That date circled in my mental calendar. December 14th, the day Mark was supposed to check into Whispering Pines Unit 3 with Jessica Hayes. Instead, he was home. We ate dinner together, watched a movie, went to bed. He didn't mention the cabin, didn't seem tense or distracted or upset about the canceled trip, which should have made me feel better. It didn't, because either he'd genuinely moved on, genuinely chosen me, genuinely cut her out of his life, or he was just better at hiding it now. I lay awake that night, Mark snoring softly beside me, and wondered which version was true. January. I found the text message by accident. We were out to dinner. Mark's phone was on the table, face up. It buzzed with a notification. Jessica, I miss you. He grabbed the phone immediately, flipped it over, but I'd already seen it. Who's that? I asked, my voice eerily calm. Spam. Just spam. Show me. Sarah, show me your phone, Mark. He hesitated just long enough for me to know. Then he unlocked it and handed it over. I opened his messages. The text thread with Jessica went back weeks, since mid-November, right after he ended it. I scrolled up reading, Mark, I'm sorry. I have to do this. Jessica, I understand. She found out? Mark, yeah. The cabin reservation. Jessica, I figured something was wrong when you canceled. Does she know about us? Mark, she knows we've been spending time together. She doesn't know everything. Jessica, are we really done? Mark, I don't have a choice. Jessica, you always have a choice. And then, later, Jessica, I can't stop thinking about you. Mark, me too. Jessica, this is killing me. Mark, I know. I'm sorry. Jessica, do you still love me? Mark, you know I do. I set the phone down on the table. Sarah, you told her you loved her. I was trying to let her down easy. I was trying to... 3 weeks ago. You told her you loved her 3 weeks ago. I didn't mean it like that. How many ways are there to mean, I love you? He didn't answer. I stood up, grabbed my purse. I'm leaving. Where are you going? Home, to pack. Sarah, wait. No, I'm done waiting. I'm done trying. I'm done pretending this is going to work. I walked out of the restaurant, left him sitting there with his phone and his lies and his confession. I filed for divorce the following Monday. Mark tried to fight it at first, sent me long text messages about how we could fix this, how he'd really end it this time, how he'd do whatever I needed. But I was past the point of believing him. The divorce was relatively straightforward. No kids, few shared assets. We'd only been married 8 years, hadn't accumulated much. We agreed to split everything 50-50. He kept the house, didn't want it anyway. Too many memories. I moved into a small apartment closer to downtown. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a kitchen barely big enough for 1 person. It was perfect. 8 months later, I was at a coffee shop when I saw them. Not together, just her, Jessica Hayes, standing in line to order, wearing yoga pants and a sweatshirt, her hair pulled back in that same ponytail from her profile picture. I almost left, almost grabbed my coffee and walked right out the door, but something made me stay. I watched her order, saw her pay with a credit card, noticed she ordered a complicated drink oat milk latte with 2 pumps of vanilla and a shot of espresso. She sat down at a table near the window, pulled out her phone, and started typing. I could have left then, should have left. Instead, I walked over. Jessica? She looked up, confused at first. Then recognition flickered across her face. Oh, Sarah, hi. Hi. An awkward pause. Can I sit? I asked. She gestured to the empty chair. Sure. I sat down. We looked at each other. She was pretty, not in an intimidating way, just normal pretty. The kind of woman who'd look good in wedding photos, but wouldn't stop traffic. I'm guessing you know who I am, I said. Yeah, Mark showed me pictures. Of course he did. Are you two still? I trailed off. She shook her head. No, we haven't talked since May. Really? Really? After you filed for divorce, he kind of spiraled. Called me a bunch of times saying it was my fault that I'd ruined his marriage. Blamed me for everything. It got ugly. I absorbed that. I'm sorry. Don't be. He was right. I did ruin his marriage. We both did. Can I ask you something? Sure. Did you know about me? When you two were going to the cabin, did you know he was married? She looked down at her coffee. Yeah, I knew. And you didn't care? I cared. I felt terrible about it, but she paused. I loved him. Still do, probably. And I kept thinking he'd leave you eventually, that he'd choose me. But he didn't. No, he tried to have both, and he lost both. We sat there for a minute, in silence. For what it's worth, she finally said, I think you did the right thing, leaving him. He's not capable of being faithful to anyone. Not really. He's too caught up in his own head, his own needs. He would have kept doing this. If not with me, then with someone else. Yeah, I said. I know. She picked up her coffee, took a sip. So what now? For you, I mean. I don't know. Keep moving forward, I guess. Figure out who I am without him. That's good. That's healthy. What about you? She smiled sadly. Same thing. Figure out who I am without him. Stop being the other woman. Maybe try dating someone who's actually available. Revolutionary concept. She laughed. Actually laughed. Right? I finished my coffee. Stood up to leave. Sarah? Jessica said. Yeah? I really am sorry. For all of it. I looked at her, this woman who'd been sleeping in my bed's shadow for 15 months. Who'd known about me and hadn't cared enough to stop. Who'd loved my husband and tried to steal him away. I know, I said. And I meant it. I got a promotion at work, the kind that came with a significant raise and a corner office and actual respect from my colleagues. I started dating someone new. Nothing serious yet, but promising. He was funny and kind and actually asked about my day. I took a trip by myself, flew across the country to see the ocean, stayed in a small bed and breakfast, spent a week reading on the beach and eating good food and not thinking about anyone but myself. And one day, I realized I'd gone an entire week without thinking about Mark, without wondering what he was doing, who he was with, whether he regretted what he'd thrown away. It was the most freeing feeling in the world. I drove past our old house once, saw a different car in the driveway, someone else living in those rooms, making different memories. Good for them. I never went back to White Pine Cabins. Couldn't imagine wanting to. That place would always be tainted now, associated with the worst discovery of my life. But I did start planning other trips, other cabins in other mountains with other views, because I deserved that. Deserved romantic weekends and hot tubs and perfect mornings with coffee and sunrises, just not with someone who'd already given those things to someone else. 18 months after I filed for divorce, I got a text from an unknown number. Hey, it's Mark. I know I have no right to reach out, but I wanted to say I'm sorry for everything. You deserve better. I hope you're happy. I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond, to tell him I was happy, to let him know I'd moved on, that I was thriving without him. But another part, the wiser part, knew that responding would just open a door that needed to stay closed. So I deleted the message, blocked the number, and went back to living my life, the one I'd built from scratch after his betrayal, the one that was mine and only mine, the one where romantic weekend getaways meant exactly what they were supposed to mean, and cabin reservations didn't come with second bookings and other women's names. It wasn't the life I'd planned when I opened that envelope 2 years ago and saw the key card and the brochure, but it was a better one, and that was enough.